House lawmakers heard testimony on the ever-changing terror threat that the U.S. faces at home and abroad.
Homeland Security Committee heard from top security officials, including FBI Director Christopher Wray and Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. During his opening statement, Secretary Mayorkas said the risks to the U.S. are vastly different from when the Homeland Security Department was first established after 9/11. Let's listen.
The evolving terrorism threat to the homeland now includes lone actors, fueled by a wide range of violent extremist ideologies and grievances, including domestic violent extremists, U.S.-based individuals who seek to further political or social goals wholly or in part through violence, without direction or inspiration from a foreign terrorist group or foreign power. From cyber attacks on our critical infrastructure to increasing destabilizing efforts by hostile nation states, the threats facing the homeland have never been greater or more complex.
For more on this, let's bring in CBS News Homeland Security and Justice reporter Nicole Sganga. Nicole, the overarching message is that threats to the U.S. are at their highest and ever-changing. What are the key points that you found from today's hearing regarding threats abroad?
Lana, there was a real focus on the threat posed by a vacuum of intelligence capabilities in the wake of the evacuation from Afghanistan. Both the FBI director and National Counterterrorism Director highlighted two threat actors in the region. As a result, Director Abizaid highlighting ISIS affiliate ISIS Khorasan, also known as ISIS-K, a group she said had a very significant capability against the Taliban right now. We know ISIS-K has conducted attacks outside of Afghanistan, and the U.S. now worried about the potential for wider spread attacks. Director Wray also mentioning al-Qaeda and in particular concerns about inspired attacks as opposed to attacks explicitly directed by the group. And there are numbers to back that up, Lana. According to the NCTC, 37 of the 45 ISIS or al-Qaeda-linked attacks in the U.S. recently have been inspired by these groups rather than centrally managed by them. Last thing, cyber. Everyone's breathing a big sigh of relief in the wake of our midterm elections. But the reality is China, Russia, North Korea still presenting significant security risks in addition to state-sponsored attacks. We continue to track what is an uptick in cyber criminal activity, up 188% in 2021. It cost businesses in the U.S. an estimated $1.2 billion.
And Nicole, I mean, what are the challenges? We talked about cyber, we talked about challenges abroad, but let's talk about domestic terrorism, which is clearly a huge threat that is only increasing, according to the officials and what we've been reporting on since 9/11 when DHS was created.
Yeah, and Lilia, this committee deals with some sticky partisan issues, but administration officials and lawmakers today agreeing when it comes to domestic terrorism, the landscape looks immensely different than it did 2 decades ago. Mass casualty events in places like Buffalo, El Paso, Pittsburgh, as well as threats to schools and hospitals. Those are just a few of the incidents raised today. We learned that 30 FBI field offices are still engaged in what Director Wray called an active investigation of threats linked to historically black colleges and universities. Wray also revealing this morning that the FBI is now working with state prosecutors to charge one suspect behind some of these bomb threats. That individual is a juvenile. That investigation, part of a larger bucket of racially motivated violent extremism, what Director Wray called the most lethal threat on the home front. You asked about the challenges. The Bureau is increasingly facing lone actors operating in small cells. What that means is with more and more attacks conducted independent of some sort of larger structure or organization, federal law enforcement has less dots out there to connect when trying to thwart some of these attacks and less time to do it in. I mean, the challenge becomes soliciting intelligence and tips from local law enforcement, from the general public, eyes and ears on the ground. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention all 3 officials who testified today expressed concern for an uptick in threats issued to law enforcement officials. Law enforcement in this country increasingly subject to ambushes and nationwide have seen more officer deaths this year than any year since 9/11.
Wow. Nicole Sganga laying out a very concerning landscape over there in terms of security. Thank you so much.
Thank you.